Hey there, my friends. It's Dr. Anthony Balduzzi, and I want to welcome you back to another amazing episode here on the Fit Father Project podcast. And this episode is special, and it's near and dear to my heart because we have one of our very own Fit Father brothers on here right now as I'm doing this introduction. His name is Jim Ertl, and he's on here for a couple specific reasons. One is, of course, to share his journey with the Fit Father Project and the health gains and the changes and improvements he's made, but there's a deeper story here that Jim's going to share. I mean, he is in the process of kidney disease and going through kidney transplants. And we're trying to look for a kidney for Jim and to do everything we can in our community to help him out with this and also to just raise awareness for kidney disease in the whole process. So Jim is going to be here and share his life story and his journey, which is still unfolding in a big way. And one of my favorite parts about this podcast is that we get to genuinely connect and hear stories of other amazing people. And it's oftentimes the challenges in our lives that give us the most treasure and richness. And we can see and feel other people going through those challenges, coming through with strong mindset. We can draw inspiration. And of course, from this episode, a lot of education. So Jim, thanks for being here.
Sure, Doc. Thank you.
Well, you reached out to me because, we got to share this story and you got to take us back to where are you at right now? Like, you have kidney disease, explain what that means, and then take us back to how that started and give us some context about this pretty significant experience in your life.
Well, it went back to 2012. I raced horses my whole life, and I was going to be starting a new job. And for about a week prior to that, I was having trouble when I lay down breathing, like I'd get short of breath. And I always had a cough feeling but nothing would come up. So it was the day before I was going to start a new job. I told my wife, I said, we better go to the hospital. And I'm not really a hospital guy, but I said, just make sure it's not pneumonia or something, which is what I really thought. Mm-hmm. And we went in the emergency room that night, and they did a bunch of tests. Come back about an hour after blood work. Look, we don't know how to tell you this. I live in a town called Batavia, and it's in the middle of the two big cities, Rochester and Buffalo. She says, you're going to have to transfer to one of them. We can't even treat you. Your kidneys are in total failure, and your blood pressure is like through the ceiling. So basically what had happened, I had sleep apnea, which I didn't know. Like, a lot of times girls should shake me, hey, wake up, you're not breathing. And it went on. And that's what basically in the end they thought caused the shutdown was the sleep apnea. I had high blood pressure untreated, and racing horse is always an excuse. I raced with a 1,000-pound animal, young and dumb, nothing going to bother me. But as I go back now, the symptoms of the blood pressure, you'd get like red in the face and different things, like windburn, like it'd be 10 degrees out. I'm jogging 10 horses, out in the cold. I always had an excuse, So basically she says, you got to ship off to them, which I did. When I got to the other hospital, they did a bunch of tests, and I was in there about 11 days. And lots of things happened then too. Like, I had an episode of spike in blood pressure, retinopathy happened, and been through a lot. Eventually, the final thing was dialysis. Straight from, I thought I had pneumonia, it was kidney failure, and dialysis. I did 8 years waiting on the list. It was supposed to be 4 or 5, but unfortunately, it went a long time. And now I had the transplant back in 2020, and it never really went completely smoothly. My numbers never were great, but, I was doing better. I wasn't on dialysis at least, but getting along. And finally, a few months back, the couple of the numbers spiked. Creatine is what they go by on the readings of the kidneys. And I went to the doctor, and they did some extra testing. They call it a Natera test to check for if your body's rejecting the kidney, which mine wasn't. I have like a 0.08% of that. So that was good. So I'm figuring everything was good. But when the doctor called, he says, yeah, listen, he says, you qualify to get back on the transplant list. I was like, whoa, I wasn't expecting to hear that. And basically my numbers had dropped enough to do that. And that's where I'm at, kind of getting back on the list now. But after doing 8 years of dialysis, I'm kind of in a bad spot where you're going to need a live donor this time, because you go back, dialysis is not good to go back to dialysis after a transplant because of the anti-rejection drugs and that.
Yeah.
Having 8 years of dialysis under my belt already, it's kind of tough. And the average life on dialysis is 7 years. So I beat a lot of odds, and actually, like, I did a DEXA scan. They says I don't show nothing on that would show usually a dialysis person, calcium and stuff being bad all through that. I'm not, I'm pretty good. I mean, knock on wood. I don't want to ever say anything like that too much, but, I'm doing as good as I can do. And hopefully I'm going to get to that next transplant.
Yeah, I certainly hope so too. And I think just from what you shared, I want to take a moment to unpack some of this stuff to help people like understand some of the foundational body systems and physiology so people can really connect and understand your story. We hear about kidneys, but I don't think many people like know exactly what they do. You maybe hear like people talk about getting punched in the kidneys or stuff like this, but these two like, I don't know, like organ shaped things in your low back that basically filter your blood and make sure that they remove things and get it into the urinary secretion. And obviously when your blood pressure is very high, that can damage that kidney's filtration. And that's also a reason why diabetes, I didn't know, do you have high blood sugars at all?
Luckily I didn't have diabetes, and like with my eyes, that's the first thing they'll say at the eye doctor, gee, how long you been diabetic? Because the retinopathy, it's the same kind of thing. I didn't have that, so that's a lucky thing, because most of the dialysis patients, that's number one. Diabetes causes that. And number two is blood pressure.
Exactly. And those two things are completely tied to lifestyle, right? I mean, high blood pressure and that, and the sleep apnea too. I mean, good that you're bringing awareness to that. I mean, there's so many people who are not sleeping well and don't even realize it. Yep. So
that was the thing with our work. It's like people thought, oh, you race horses, man, that's great. You only got to go race them once a week. It's quick, but nah, it's 7 days a week. Basically 16-hour days usually. If you had to race that night, you come home, you get up in the morning, you're there at 6, work out, all the horses do it, and then you go home for a little break, come back at night and race. You're there till midnight, A lot of times you get out, what's open? Fast food,
Sure.
And then you're up again. You don't sleep good. When you're young, you don't think about it. But boy, when I look back on that lifestyle, I mean, it really is, it's tough,
And when you got on the list for a kidney transplant, did you get one kidney or both kidneys replaced the first time?
No, you only get one, and they leave your old kidneys in. Right now I have 3 in me.
Wow.
Yeah, the initial 2, they're still there. Like the only time they'll take them out is if they start to get like where they'll start to rot or they'll wither way down. Yeah. Mine never did that either, like I've been lucky. I mean, lucky in a lot of ways for what I've been through and where I have. I mean, I've come through quite good,
And maybe as a wake-up call for guys who are listening to this who aren't exactly on the healthiest routine and regimen quite yet, but are listening to this for inspiration, like tell us about like the pain in the ass that dialysis is and what that's like. So if you don't take care of your blood pressure and you don't let your diabetes and your blood sugars run and your kidneys get damaged, like what do you have to do to survive when your kidneys aren't working?
Well, I mean, your diet, basically my water intake, like now when you're on dialysis, you can't hardly drink any fluids. Stay away from salt because it'll keep the fluid on you. And I mean, basically I was out like I had like 2 bottles a day I could get through. Luckily, I still urinated, where a lot of them after maybe a year or so, they stop. Now every bit of fluid you take on you, it's on you until the next machine visit, So it's 3 days a week, but the weekends you get that extra day, and that would be the tough one. So when I'd go on Monday from a Friday, I watched pretty much how I did. Like I was careful, and they would take basically dialysis takes the fluid out of your bloodstream directly through the needles. So on Monday morning, usually my average was 9 pounds of fluid I would take off in that treatment in 3.5 hours through the bloodstream. I mean, sometimes like in the beginning, they don't know your dry weight's what they call it. That's what they take you down to. So until they get you to that, like when you get that, you pass out, or you'll get the most severe cramps you've ever had in your life. Like it's like a Charlie horse in your back, your leg. Like if you'd wake up in the night, only you might get them in your stomach, anywhere. I mean, it's just like a spear going through you. It's unbelievable. But that's how they got to find out to get you to your dry weight to know how much to take off you. So they weigh us when we come in. It's all by weight now. They told me like 20 years ago, it was way more brutal than that. Like they didn't know how to do that. They couldn't do it by the weight. So they basically, a lot of them, they went to, you got sick or, you tell them, maybe pass out, whatnot. That's how they used to do it. So, I mean, it's come a long ways, but it's not. I like to just try to I did 8 years. I just kind of try to block that out. I mean, I made it through and that's that, but it's a tough thing. Nobody wants to go there, man.
And now with the medications that are immunosuppressive for you to make sure you don't reject the kidney, is the risk with dialysis like infection from all the needles and all that stuff going on? Is that why it's not recommended after the fact?
Well, it's just, I mean, it does play a lot. It's tough on your system. Like very hard on your heart. You know, I mean, I was there 8 years. I can't count how many of them aren't with us now. You know, I mean,
Yeah.
I would be talking to a buddy on Friday. Yeah, I'm going to go fishing. Come in Monday and they tell you, hey, Willie died over the week. You know what I mean? Like, it's terrible. I mean, I'll tell you what, Doc, it really makes your life, changes your thought on things. You know, the little things, they don't matter no more. Things that would irk you or something, man, you know, like, I seen so many stories, like older people where the family would come in and visit them and they'd be fighting over who's going to get what when they're gone. And they'd leave, they'd look at me. I remember the one woman, she'd be like, I just want him to unhook the machine. I'm done. You know, I'm a burden. It's tough.
Oh, I actually, before we get into your Fit Father journey and how that program's helped your health and concurrent with this, and also how you modified it to fit your specific needs, can you share a little more into this, these different philosophies and life things that you've realized, whether they're like deep truths that you might even consider spiritual or very true, or different perspectives that have shifted? Because you've gone through something tremendous that's, you know, in far deeper levels than just physically. So, I mean, I'd love to hear some of more mental, emotional, and even spiritual shifts you've made through this process.
I tell you, the biggest thing that happened when I was in the hospital after transplant, when I got the transplant, the kidney didn't kick in right away. It actually took 7 days before it started functioning.
Wow.
So I was laying there, and day by day, I'm thinking, man, you know, I went 8 years and it ain't going to work. You know, I mean, that's basically where you started feeling. And they'd come in every morning. There was like 7 different teams of doctors. First ones were interns, more or less. And they'd give you like the happy, oh, we're going to get, you know what I mean? By the end, you got your real doctor. It was reality, you know, and they were always still positive because I was making urine like a racehorse going. Just wasn't filtering nothing. So it got to be a Friday, and my doctor told me, the main man, he said, look, I'm going to be gone for the weekend. I'm off. He goes, but I'm telling you, it's going to kick on. I can feel it. And so I went there that day. The nurses come in and they're like, Jim, how do you feel about going into a private room? I'm like, geez, that's great. You know, no problem here. I'm not going to be upset. So, but I remember when I went into the new room, I just kind of got a different feeling. It was weird, hard to explain, but I was like, man, you know, maybe it's going to kick on. Like, it was just a weird. So that night I went to sleep. I was laying there and felt like a nudge on my shoulder or something, you know, and I was like, whatever. And a couple of minutes went by, and it was more like a push, you know. And I mean, I never was big time spiritual guy a lot, but you know, I mean, and I just rolled over and looked, and there was like there was some kind of a being there, you know, and it's hard to explain. Couldn't make out the face, but it kind of just slowly faded back into the wall type of thing. And I remember feeling like a feeling of, oh my God, like it's going to be all right. Like, I don't really never told a lot of people about that, but sure enough, the next morning, the nurses come in, they're like, look at your numbers have turned around. They're shooting up. And I mean, from that day, within 2 days, Sunday, I was out of there. The doctor, I didn't get to see him again, but that there was something. I mean, well, whatever was in that room, you know what I mean? It was definitely something. Like my buddy Terry, he's a member here. You did a podcast with him, Terry Van Epps. And I told him, and right away he's like, I know exactly what it is. And he was big into it and everything. And you know, that was the big thing for me. I mean, it always makes me feel, even now, like things haven't gone good, but there's something keeping me going. You know what I mean? Like I'm still alive, and I really don't feel terrible for where I'm at. I'm in stage 4 kidney disease. I have been basically since I got the new kidney. Now, I didn't really know that, you know, and I mean, truthfully, I'm still doing, I mean, there's days, you know what I mean? There's days you don't feel quite as good, but I mean, I'm able to do the workouts and this and that to a point, and we'll get into that, where I've had some limitations and had to do a few things. But you know, yeah, it's crazy. I mean, you do the diet. I already was doing the water, like that's part of it. I mean, that was but diet, big time. Diet before, pre, like that's really a big deal for everybody. I mean, no question, the salts and everything. I never was a big sweet guy, thankfully. I'm not a diabetic and everything, but yeah, there's just there's so much to it, you know.
Well, first off, I want to recognize powerful story. Thank you for sharing that. I know it's really personal, and I don't think we need to even try to explain it other than you had a really profound and beautiful experience. And I think when that heart of peace, love, and trust has touched me in dark moments of my life, it's really amazing. Peak experience in life for sure. Now, a lot of people in your position would kind of roll over. Like, you've had a lot of adversity, right? But you did something different. You continue to make some changes, and you literally started a fitness program with Fit Father Project that is by no means easy. And you had to make some adaptations to the program material. So maybe let's get into that. Like, when did you join the program? What was your mindset when you joined it? Let's start there, and maybe even a mission statement stuff. And then I want to talk about the nutrition and how you adapted that. But let's start, like, when did you join, and what were you thinking at that time in your mind to even start something like this when a lot of people would honestly just straight give up?
Well, what was going on is I had the transplant. It had been about a year, and I was only eating probably 16 to 1,800 calories a day and gaining weight.
Mm-hmm.
And it's all the meds that you're on, the anti-rejection meds and everything that you take. I mean, it's a big deal. And a couple of the blood pressure medicines I was on too, which I found out later, like, I was still on a lot of blood pressure meds, more than before dialysis, before transplant. And in the end, I found out because this kidney really wasn't up to par as good as it could have been. And I was on the alpha blockers before, which worked great on me. I had to switch to calcium blockers after transplants because they'll attack the kidney, the other ones. So they just don't work as good on me. So anyway, I was gaining the weight, and I was like, man, what can I do? I was walking on the treadmill, but I was getting to the point, like, it was getting back to heading up, towards dialysis weight. So I called my nutritionist. They got a new transplant nutritionist, and I asked her, I'm like, geez, what can I do? I mean, I'm walking, I'm not eating as much. And she says, look, she goes, you got to get some aerobic exercise. She says, try them bands, the elastic band, she says, and add that into your walking. So I got a set, and I went on YouTube, and I found one of your podcasts for the Fit Women, Fit Mother Project, and using the band. So I was like, okay, well, then I looked into your program more, and I sent an email because a transplant patient, and the next day you answered it, and it was like, look, I'm a transplant patient. I don't know if you've worked with them or not. Probably not. But I says, and I've tried to do something, and you message back and say, I think I can help, but I want to work with your doctors. Don't do nothing, that will hurt you. And we did, and I'd run things by them. And sure enough, I started in with the program then. That was in January of 21, and things were going good. First week, I lost like 8 pounds. Everything's good. I got until April, and COVID. I ended up with COVID, and that was no good. That I had a very mild case. Wife was down for a week, but the after effects is about a month later. All of a sudden, the heart palpitations start happening, and it was actually 22, not 21. I'm sorry, January 22. So they're going on, and I'd go in. I ended up having an emergency room. I thought I was having a heart attack. I was just sitting in the chair the one day, wet nuts. Went in, nothing wrong with your heart, this, that, the other thing, and went back to it. Happened again. They still couldn't find nothing. So everything was blamed on COVID, after COVID. And, finally, and that knocked me out for like 6-7 months. I as soon as I tried to even on the treadmill, the heart would just start racing. So finally, it got to the point. I know a little bit about blood works because racing the horses, they're athletes. We always had to keep track of everything. And I noticed my vitamin D. I'm like, man, it's low. It's like 17, so I call the doctor, and I'm like, Doc, geez, what about this vitamin D? I read I looked up research that mixed with like calcium, magnesium can cause these palpitations. Well, we don't want you to go on no vitamin D, says, because I don't, it could affect other transplant things and stuff. So went another couple of weeks, same thing. Finally, I said, I'll call my nutritionist again. I called her, and I was like, geez, I says, Danielle, is there anything we can do to eat? To take in more D? She goes, well, let me look at your level. She pulled my blood work up, and oh my God, Jim, she says, you were dangerously low. And she goes, this could absolutely cause a palpitation. So then she called the doctors again, sure enough, went on the vitamin D, straightened me out. So from that point on, this January, I started again, but I was back up to like maybe 240, 245. And sure enough, I started the thing. I've been on it all year, and I'm down to 197 right now. I've lost like 50 pounds with that. And I tell you, it's something to do it anyway. But man, with all the anti-rejection drugs and stuff, I mean, it really, it's really wicked. But it's definitely worked for me. Knock the blood pressure down, everything.
Hey, it's Dr. Ray. I want to quickly pause this episode to thank you for listening to this Fit Father podcast. I am just blown away at how amazing this podcast has become. I had no idea when I started FFP around 10 years ago that it would grow into such an impactful mission. And I want to let you know that I am so grateful to be connected to you in this lifetime. And on behalf of me and my entire team, we are so grateful to be in your life, helping you get and stay healthier for your family. That's what I want to share. Just some gratitude from my heart to yours. Let's get back to today's episode.
That's powerful. I think also, I really do appreciate that the part of vitamin D in your story came up, and I've been doing a lot more videos and information about this. Vitamin D is so critical for everything: heart health, immune system health, obviously calcium metabolism and all that. So especially going into this winter time, guys listen to this podcast, get some supplemental vitamin D3. It can be really helpful. So, and also probably one of the reasons why your vitamin D was so low is in diseased kidneys play a role in the conversion of D to the active D. So if you have kidney disease, you have lower D already. So that's not surprising.
Yeah. They said basically now in the summer, I was able to go back off again, being out in the sun, and I still, my level, it gets to be about maybe 30, 28 and 30. But, I get along there. If you get too much D in our case, now it can cause some problems. Too
much calcium.
Yeah.
Too much calcium.
So you don't want to get a kidney stone and everything. Yeah. And, I was on the 2 a day, and I got the one report. I headed up some of the little bit of calcium in the urine and stuff. So, it's a fine line. I just went back on vitamin D again this last couple of weeks. I was down to 22. So, I mean, I know how
you're monitoring that.
Yeah, I definitely keep an eye on the blood too. So, it helps.
Okay. So, I mean, it just goes to show a couple things. I want people to appreciate you losing, over 50 pounds, being on those rejection medications. They make you gain fat and weight typically because they're steroid medications that are trying to suppress your immune system. And then the side effect is weight gain, fat gain, water retention. So, it's a whole cocktail you're working against, but just a message of hope that people can still dramatically improve their weight through this process. So how'd you change the nutrition? Because one thing that, we advocate higher protein diets for the most part in the meal plan, but a lot of times with the kidney stuff, you definitely want a lower protein diet, or at least moderate, not necessarily low, but what'd you eat throughout the day? What's a day in the life of your nutrition as you're losing the 50 plus pounds? Run us through.
It's crazy. Like you say, with the protein, like us, can't go. I mean, the protein's good as far as losing the weight. It's just always a fine line. So in the morning, I've gotten to where mainly I stick to oatmeal, and I'll add fresh fruits to the oatmeal, never no sugar and stuff, and a couple hard-boiled eggs for the protein there.
Nice.
And that's been basically the go-to for me, and it's worked very well. And salad, I have a lot of salads at lunch. Salad's a big thing. Spinach, incorporate, I mean, tons of vegetables, and my nightly meal, get our protein. They want us to have nothing bigger than a deck of cards is how they call it.
Yeah.
That's their little measurement deal. But and I try to stick to it, but it's hard when you're not eating enough protein. I'll get anemic. The red counts and stuff will go down, and I've got it right now, knock on wood again, because things change a lot with this, but it's pretty good. Right now, all the red, the hemoglobin, hematocrit, everything's staying really well, and we're good right now. So
nice. So, I mean, it sounds like you basically have modified it. I love the fact that you're getting those eggs, because that's one of the highest quality protein sources you can get. And between the eggs and the oatmeal, you're probably getting around 15 to 20 grams of protein in that meal, and that's probably ideal for you. And then at night, you're probably getting kind of similar, maybe that, and then salad probably has another. Yeah, you're probably at 50, 60, 70 grams of protein a day, and that's probably ideal for you.
They want a 660. That's the shoot for us, 60. Maybe you can go a touch higher here and there, but that's the basic that keeps you, pretty good.
You're basically on it. And I mean, that's high quality protein. You can get along with that, and you're having the healthy carbs and vegetables and healthy fats with that as well. What kind of carbohydrates do you do at dinner? Do you any rice or sweet potatoes, or just more veggies and stuff like that?
Brown rice, sweet potatoes, those are the main two. Yep. Mm-hmm. And That's really it. Like I might substitute like maybe say cauliflower for my good carb or something. But those are usually the main two. No butter. I don't touch butter ever. And if I have it like one meal a week, me and wife go to breakfast every Saturday morning. I'll have toast. That's the only time I'll really eat bread.
Yeah.
But the butter on it, man, I tasted like the salt that you taste when you don't eat it. It's amazing how much salt and stuff is in that. It's wild.
And that's also fascinating and just shows how important the kidneys are, right? Because it's someone who has normal kidney function can get away with having the salt without having any problems, but just shows how precious the whole system is when those kidneys aren't working, how you have to be so attuned to even the amount of salt and butter. Like, I don't think twice about that, but for you, it's like a matter of kind of life or death in a sense. Yeah.
Right. I don't taste it. I don't use it much. So when I have something salty, man, it's just like, you just can't do it.
How do you season your food? Do you use anything that works well for you in terms of seasoning, or you just kind of liking what you're having?
Just powders. Like I make sure, like if it's garlic powder. I make all my own spices, little mixes. Like I'll make a barbecue spice. You can't buy nothing in the store. I mean, I learned to can. Even on dialysis, because I love like my sauces and stuff, like spaghetti sauce or anything, forget it. The salt stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, I learned to read labels. I've been doing that a long time now. So going into this group, even like that's all easy enough for me. I can get that, but just mainly cutting out the butters, cutting out the saturated fats of any kind. Like that's where I have to be.
Gotcha. All right, so let's talk about the exercise aspect of it. What's been your approach, and how have you used the Fit Father workout specifically, like cardio, strength training, walking? Like, what's been your plan and what's worked for you?
Walking's huge with me. I mean, it always was with the treadmill. Like, so I got into doing like your Apex 10s and the Monroes and stuff. So I'll wake up in the morning, I'll do one or the other. I'll do one of those first and then work my treadmill stuff in throughout the day. Like, I found for me, it's better if I can go like a couple of times, like especially with the walk, and say like walk a mile and a half in the morning.
Yeah.
Do one of the workout things, walk a mile and a half later on in the afternoon or something, kind of to kill the meals. It's another thing, like the fasting too. That really works great for me. Like when I do that, but with the pills, it's a tough thing. Like some of the pills I take, like, man, there are a few of them they want you to eat with, but I can get through it. I mean, it's just something you can't do quite as much as I'd like. But if I ever had a day where I gain a day, I know if I do the fast, 2 or 3 pounds, it's just like that. It's automatic. But the exercise, it's a lot more walking now. The big thing with me, the fistula from dialysis, I don't know, like it's massive. It's just a big aneurysm. So basically, like a lot of the huge weight, like I don't do the push-ups and stuff too much. They want me to restrict to like 10, 15 pound tops.
Yeah.
So those are the dumbbells I'll use and stuff, but like the push I try not to do. So I'll do like more reps.
Yeah.
Like the Apex 10s and stuff, I'll do 7 or 8 different exercises and go up and down. Like lots of leg lifts, lots of sit-ups, stuff like that. I do use the arm, like I'll do my curls, head skull crushers, all that to get the different spots.
Yep.
But I just have to be careful. And I know if I'm overdoing it a little bit or something, I just back down because I certainly don't want to put myself out, so.
Yep.
I had a bout of plantar fasciitis back when I was on dialysis before the program. I had to do the foot injections and they finally got me. They got it low. Like I had 2 or 3, it wasn't working. Finally, I told the doctor though, I was like, Doc, go ahead, just blast it. I remember from the horses. I'm like, look, I could take it. And that day we did. And it felt like I had a softball in there or something. It wasn't, but I was like, you know what? Never had a problem again after that. I mean, I get my insoles and, keep the shoes good, but, thankfully, nice. I'm good with that. I got to be able to walk.
For sure. And I think I just love your mindset of modifying it and making it work for you, adding things to the program. And I can just tell that you're not looking through the lens of these are obstacles.
Oh, no.
You're looking through the lens of like just what will work for me. And like that's, I think, what's so inspirational about this is everybody listening can take that mindset and apply it to whatever challenge or opportunity we have in life. And it's also when we have these challenges, like you're here to be able to share with us and inspire us. So I'm just telling you, you're doing good right now in this conversation from your unique life experience. So like, that's so beautiful to me.
I'm happy to be able to get up and do it, Doc. You know what I mean? Like even when I was in like dialysis, most of, like, you got the guy across from you, no legs, you know, from losing him to diabetes. And I mean, I get up, my nurse, Connie, she used to laugh. She's like, Jim, you like run to that scale because you got to weigh before you leave. I'm like, hey, I'm good. I want to get out. But I mean, I always was just thankful. I mean, I was lucky, man. I was in there. I was only 42 when I went in there. And, you know, I was the young guy basically. And just everything you've seen, you know, it's, to me, mindset, I couldn't drink water for 8 years. You know what I mean? Now it's like, I can drink, you know, I can get up and walk. Like, I'm good. Like, there ain't nothing going to bother me like that. It's just, I'm glad to be able to do whatever I can do.
I'm really feeling into that right now in terms of just like how our ability to experience gratitude is in relation to our reference frames. Like, you just, even the most basic thing, like, I imagine not being able to drink water. I don't even tell you to imagine, because like, that was your living experience. Like, we take that for granted, but that was really, man, I mean, and what you've seen too, to be able to cultivate that gratitude, I think we can all take that from this conversation. So tell me about the future. And I want to talk about, I guess, more of like the kidney community. And I know there's a nonprofit you're working with, kidneysforcommunities.org, that is helping you find a donor. So let's talk about what's next for you, what's on the pipeline rest of this year and into next year.
Yeah, they've worked with me now really well. And what they do is they work with communities, is what they call it. And I was like, what do you mean? More or less organizations that you're involved with. And right away, I thought about the horse racing and you guys, you know, with the fitness, like those are the two. And they were like, man, those are two we're not in yet, you know. So we went with it. I also got a newscast coming up with my local news out of Buffalo. We're going to be doing that from the racetrack at the barns with the horses and
cool.
This and that. So they're like, man, you're a go-getter. They're like, we didn't expect, like, I talked to the head guy's name is Atul, and he was leaving the country for a little bit. Within the next day, I'm like, all right, I got a couple lined up. Like, we could get rolling. He's like, what are you doing? You know, so sure enough, the ball's been rolling, and luckily everything's on board. But they help any donor, potential donor, that they do the testing at home. They'll send them tests. If it comes to them being a donor, they pay for some of the expenses and everything. As far as all the testing, don't cost the donor $1. Like, if they have to fly somewhere, if they have missed work, they've got workman's compensation programs. They've got insurance policies they take out for them. And the big thing with them too, they do the match. Like, they don't have to be a perfect match to me. They do the pairing programs and everything. So people come forward, you know, it gives me a chance. That left me a lot more hope. Like, on my own, I had no idea how to really go about that. There was a woman I had met before I got the first deceased transplant, and her name was Pam, and she was from matchingdonors.com, I think they're called, or whatnot. And there was the same type of deal. And she was telling me, Jim, wait for a live kidney, wait for one, because sometimes the deceased ones don't work. And I was like, Pam, I've been on the list for 8 years, you know. I mean, if they give me the call, I got to go. Sure enough, it was 2 months after I met her, I got the call and went and got this one. And I don't want to knock this kidney. Look, it might not have been not where it's, I'm here, you know what I mean? Regardless, my aunt said it to me the best. She said, it's gotten you this far. She says, you might not have made it on dialysis. You know, the average lifespan, it's gotten you away from that. So, I mean, everything's for a reason, Doc. You know, that's what I really look at it like. You know, I'm still here. Hopefully my story can help other people and everything. I mean, I'd like to get into something like that. You know, horses are out of the question. The infection risk, you know.
Yeah.
All the stuff like this on my arm, hopefully that can get taken away. That's the other thing. If the transplant was successful, they can take that out, that fistula. Yeah. You know, right now it's a target. I mean, anywhere you're at.
Yeah.
If I can get the successful transplant, you know, it would be, you know, then I plan on going further with this too. Like, I've kind of at a point with Fit Father where I'm just doing what I can do, tweaking it because I have to, because I can't go on farther as far as with that as an obstacle. But, you know, down the line, hey, I might complete this whole thing after all. You know, that's how I'm looking at it. You know, I mean, that's where we're at.
I don't doubt that for 1 second. I mean, your mindset is infectious. And if someone donates a kidney, just so people know, we have 2 kidneys. So if you were to donate one and that's somewhere on your heart, kidney donors who are good matches, like, they can be completely fine with 1 kidney. I mean, I'm saying, like, that's a kind of a medical fact, but can you speak into that as well? Do you know anything on that side of things for live donors and potential interested people?
Absolutely. Yeah. They go on well. As far as the healing process for them, I mean, it's pretty fast. It's like like a week, I think, or something like that. They're back up and rolling. Us, it's a little tougher with us and everything you get. But, as far as that organization, Kidneys for Communities.org, that's the thing with them too. They're great as far as doing all the testing where they can test multiple people at a time. And you say if anything does go wrong with them, they guarantee them a kidney. Like they'll get one on the list like quickly if something was to go wrong with the other one down the line and everything. And which usually don't. There was one fella on our program here. He put a comment on one of my posts on the Facebook group, and he said he had given one, and he put a big thing on there about telling everybody you can do it. He was 25 years in after his, where he donated one back in the past and everything. So
that's really heroic. I mean, to do that is
absolutely.
Really beautiful.
Absolutely. So, look, I can't even imagine. I need one, and you don't expect that. And there's people out there. That's what this group told me. They're like, look at everybody in that group. They've either given one or they've received one. Like they all know. So it's another thing. If a donor comes forward, they'll be talking to somebody who actually has given one that gets them through the process and everything. And it's really amazing what them guys do. It's something. That the head of that, he was a hard to match kidney, and he got one, and fortunately he was in a Fortune 500 company, so he was well off. And he said after he got his and lived, he just wants to do all he can do to help people get kidneys faster. And him and that org, like I told him, man, you guys are unbelievable to do what you're doing. And, there's a group of about 4 or 5 of them, all well off, and all that's their mindset. They're going to get kidneys for people, and they do. So, Well,
I'll say this, and kind of like in closing, bigger picture. Like I think if we look around, or if you read news headlines or get into any of that stuff, you can see a lot of humans and groups of humans with negative stuff, negativity, and all the stuff. And what I'm seeing is the exact opposite of that. I'm seeing groups of humans together around positivity, around shared challenges, coming together to conquer, to grow, to love one another. And like, this is like really the light and the good side of this whole life experience of what people can create when they come together and get passionate about our unique life experiences. Like obviously me and my dad passing, and me getting passionate about dad's fitness, you and Kidneys for Communities, going through this whole kidney journey. It's beautiful to witness all the things that we can come together on and help one another out on. So I'm grateful that you were here and we could share this conversation. The last thing I'll say, Jim, and really just a question, is like, share a little bit in closing about like how this Fit Father program and community has like impacted your life. I know you've shared some of the details, but if you can kind of put a nice bow on this message, I'd love to hear it, and maybe even a message out to the brothers who have been here with you on your journey and will continue to be with you.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I got to thank all of them too. I mean, Kat and Ben and Trina getting this together, and everybody's been great. Gerald, he's the guy that reached out to me there and told me, hey, he goes, how about the Brotherhood? He goes, have you asked them guys to help you with this? And he kind of got the ball rolling, Gerald Stone.
Yeah, and, he's an amazing guy.
Everybody's unbelievable. Look, the group, I mean, you go on there, like I don't post on there quite as much because I have to do things a little different, and I don't like your deal with everybody and your program. Like I go against it. I'm not against it, but I have to tweak it. So I don't want to go on there and be like, well, look, I did it this way. I mean, everybody's great, and I'm sure that I inspire, like guys like Barry Tannerlow. Look, he lost,
right?
He's still going, man. You know what I mean? Like there's
right.
Everybody's got a problem. Everybody's going to face them someday. You know what I mean? Terry, I think of him, his wife's going through the cancer, and, I think more about them. Another buddy of mine, John, his wife just out of the blue cancer. Look, we all got to face things, and they fight on, you know what I mean? We all can. That's the way I look at that thing.
Well, I think the blessing of this conversation, Jim, is that for whatever challenges each of us does inevitably face in our lives, that we face it with the courage, the hope, and the gratitude that you determine and that you embody so well. So on that note, thank you for this conversation today. It definitely moved me, and I'm grateful to be able to give this out to the Brotherhood and to hear the reception of this.
I always look at it like it's like a fight, you know what I mean? Each year is another round. I'm in round 12, Doc, ring the bell. I'm not down yet, man. I might have been down. I'm still up. It's it.
I love it, Jim. Thanks for the inspiration today. It means a lot.
Thanks for having me on, Doc. Thanks for your help.